to enter Habs After Dark with Recliner Sports.
3, 2, 1, 0.
What is going on, gang? What is going on? My name is Devin. This is Habs After Dark. Bienvenue tout le monde. C'est ici l'émission Bleu, Blanc, Rouge, Nuit. Je m'appelle Devin. Et c'est votre émission d'après-match des Canadiens de Montréal. This is your Montreal Canadiens post-game show and review. And it's really great to see you. We didn't do a show last night. I had other plans. I wasn't able to answer the bell, so I apologize for that. But I'm here tonight, and I'm really happy to talk about tonight's game and maybe a little bit about last night's game. You guys can maybe tell me a little bit about last night's game because I did not get to watch very much of it. I saw the highlights, but I didn't get to see much of the game. So let's get started, guys. I see there's a few of you in here already. I see there's been a few thumbs up already. We're 6 people in the show at the moment. We're on TikTok as well. I see you guys over there on TikTok. If you want to join us on YT, certainly feel free to come on over. But again, guys, I'm looking for more comments from you, questions from you. I'd like to talk to you, not at you. Obviously, I want to present some of the stuff, the scoreboard and the A team and what have you. But more than anything, I'm more interested in having conversations and having a chat with you guys. So feel free to fire away with the questions. I see Claude, go Habs go, 5 in a row. Yes, sir. Mike Leochi, it was not pretty, but Habs won. Dobesh was the difference maker. Agree 100%. It wasn't a pretty one. It wasn't their best effort of all time. There's perhaps some reasons for that, but again, at the end of the day, at this point in the season, anyway, it's not about it's not about how you win. It's about how many you win. And right now, it's just a matter of getting victories and however you can get them. That works, right? Like you're not really worried about how pretty a win is right now. This is kind of make it or break it kind of time of the year. And we'll see how it turns out. Ça sent les séries. C'est sûr, Aaron, que ça sent les séries. As every day passes, the Canadiens get closer and closer to a playoff berth. Antoine Bouchard, another win in the books for the Habs tonight against Nashville. Absolutely, Antoine. Another back-to-back Friday and Saturday. I think Dobesh should start versus Toronto as Montembeault struggled in the last 2 starts versus Toronto. You're probably not going to see that, Mike. You're probably not going to see that. I don't know. I don't know what order they're going to do it in next week. Is that the... Let me just see here. So the Canadiens play on Tuesday against the Red Wings, and then they play Friday and Saturday against Ottawa and Toronto. Yeah, I don't know how they're going to do it. I would expect you're going to see Montembeault on Tuesday, but I don't know. We'll see. I doubt you're going to see them move away from Montembeault. Again, I think that he's playing well, and I think they're not. Marty St. Louis is going to put the guy in nets who he thinks is best able to give the team the best chance to win. And I think right now at this moment, I think it's probably Samuel Montembeault. What's up, Nicolas? Bonjour, Nicolas. What's up, Billy D? Big win. Hello, Tristan. Comment as-tu trouvé Arbor à son retour du jeu? Je pense qu'il a... personne a très bien joué ce soir, je pense. C'était pas un bon match pour la plupart des joueurs sur l'équipe. Alors, j'ai trouvé que Arbor a bien joué dans les circonstances. C'était son premier match après avoir manqué 3 matchs. Alors, j'ai trouvé qu'il a bien paru comparé à la reste de l'équipe. Il n'était pas spectaculaire, mais il n'était pas terrible non plus. Il était la même... il a bien joué, tout comme les autres. Peut-être qu'il n'a pas joué hier, alors on a pu peut-être avoir des expectations. Expectations, that's not right the word. Je ne sais pas le mot propre en français. Peut-être parce qu'il n'a pas joué hier, on pourrait peut-être avoir on a peut-être voulu voir mieux de lui parce qu'il était un joueur qui n'a pas joué, mais pour moi, il a assez bien joué pour moi. Glad that Marty St. Louis interference call went for us that time. I'm not sure what that means, Leo. Sorry, man. I don't know what you mean by the Marty St. Louis interference call. Most probably Monty for most of the games. I think you're going to see Montembeault get the vast majority of games. Not saying I necessarily agree with it. I think they've probably not done an ideal job of mixing things up between their two goalies and creating a scenario where they have two valid options at this stage. At this point, they've kind of not distributed the workload evenly enough for Dobesh to be sort of ready to go on a regular basis. Since we have a 6-point lead, I think it would benefit to give Monty a split schedule next week. Yeah, well, I don't think, again, Marty St. Louis is a young coach, and he is going to rely very, very heavily on the players that he believes gives his team the best chance to win. And I think right now that's Samuel Montembeault. That might change a little bit if the Canadiens clinch a playoff spot and there's a few games left. You might see a little bit more of Dobesh then. But I think between now and then, I think you're probably going to see a pretty steady diet of Montembeault. I think you will get Dobesh in one of the two games on the weekend with the back-to-back Friday and Saturday. But we'll see. Aaron, what's Aaron's thoughts? I think if you clinch, you rest Monty until playoffs. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if you rest him until the playoffs. I think you certainly, you want him to, you don't want him to get too cold, right? You don't want him to, you want him to stay hot and stay ready to go. I think you probably do give him, more days off than you would otherwise if they clinch. But I don't think you would say, oh, we're going to give him like a whole week off or something like that. I don't think they'll do that. Bonjour, Sébastien. Huge win for the Canadiens, doing better than expected. Absolutely. This is, all of this playoff business is completely gravy for a Montreal Canadiens team that probably was not expected or was not expected to advance their rebuild as quickly as all of this. Jeffrey B. Régent Théoret. Should Marty St. Louis get consideration for Jack Adams Trophy if the Canadiens clinch a playoff spot? I think he should. I don't think he would win it, and I don't think he should win it. I don't think he has been the best coach in the league this year. However, if the Canadiens, I personally think he's one of the top 5 coaches in the league anyway. And I think he probably will get some consideration if the Canadiens are able to clinch a playoff spot. However, I don't expect that. I don't expect he would win it. I don't think that he would deserve to win it. And again, I think he would be in a battle to get into that, the top 3, like the 3 nominees. Attentes. Ah, les attentes. Oui, je comprends. Merci, Nicolas. Alors, peut-être on aurait eu des attentes plus élevées pour Arber Xhekaj à cause qu'il n'a pas joué hier, comme le reste de l'équipe. Mais ce n'est pas son jeu. Ce n'est pas un joueur de... c'est un défenseur de troisième duo. Alors, je n'aurais pas attendu qu'il jouerait un match spectaculaire. Alors, pour moi, il a bien joué. Il a bien paru. Il n'a pas été trop... il n'a pas mal joué, mais il n'a pas été spectaculaire non plus. Split schedule only when we clinch. Yeah, I think they'll do something. I think if and when they clinch, Randy. But we'll see. Oui, Sébastien, les meilleures attentes. Dobesh on the A-team tonight for sure. Well, you'll have to stick around and find out, Tristan. Let's see. 5-game winning streak seals the deal to make the playoffs. Not quite yet, but they're getting closer every day. Theo Cody, what's up? Joella Framboise. Is Savard and Heineman injured or rest day? They are listed as day-to-day. I don't know the nature of their injuries. I understand, and I didn't watch the game last night. I understand there was a hit on Heineman late in the game. that might have been a bit of an issue. Um, I'm not sure what's going on with Savard. I couldn't tell you. I mean, I expect it's probably not a major thing with him. I think he's probably been playing with something a little, a nagging type of injury for a little while yet. Super Dad, Juhavenio, what's up? Um, yeah, I think that he's probably been playing with a nagging injury for some time yet, and maybe it got to the point where he needed a day off. We'll see. A team, Dobesh, Line, Cole, and Suzuki. You have 2 of 4, Claude. You have 2 of 4, right? Nice to see Line and Gallagher with their 20th goals of the season. Absolutely. Yeah, it's really good to see. The Canadiens have not had 4 20-goal scorers on their team in quite some time. And it is nice to see that. Carberry definitely winning. I would say that Carberry is the man to beat, Tristan, for the Jack Adams Award. I think he would deserve it. I mean, again? It's always hard to tell with a coach. How do you judge a coach of the year, right? Coach of the year typically will go to the coach whose team wasn't expected to do very well, but then actually ends up, doing, relatively well. So that this year is Carberry. Again, how do you really know who was the best coach or not? Like, just because your team doesn't win a lot of games doesn't necessarily mean you weren't a good coach, right? Like Marty St. Louis was a pretty good coach last year, but the team wasn't very good and he wasn't going to get any type of consideration, right? And now, there's talk that maybe he'll get some consideration because the Canadiens are in a playoff spot. Is Marty St. Louis any better of a coach this year than he was last year? Will he be any better of a coach next year than he was this year? Just because the Canadiens, finish a little higher up in the playoffs? I don't know. Savard or Jack for the playoffs. I think you'll probably see Savard get the majority of the work in the playoffs. More experience. He plays, obviously a very specific role. But yeah, I mean, he's right-handed as well, right? The righty-lefty dynamic on the Canadiens is not ideal, and taking Savard. Savard is one of only 2 right-handed defensemen that the Canadiens have, so we'll see. Montreal should have traded for the Skinner brothers in Edmonton. Okay, brilliant commentary. Billy, what's the Nova Scotia? You got that. I'll let you guys chat that out. Detroit on Wednesday is a big game. Yeah, it could be. It definitely could be a big game. Detroit is currently, let us just see where the standings have everybody. So Detroit right now is 6 points behind Montreal with a game in hand. So beating them on Tuesday certainly would probably finish them off, I would say. That win, that would give the Canadiens an 8-point lead with a game in hand. An 8-point lead, an 8-point lead with a game in hand. So yeah, a win there is probably the biggest one for the rest of the way. What's up, Karen? Go Habs, go! Yes. Is there a reason why they sound Fowler to an AHL tryout? And not with an NHL option? Well, first of all, they didn't sign him to an AHL tryout. They signed him to an AHL contract. And yes, there is a reason for that because they want him to play in the AHL. They want him to play games between now and the end of the season in the American Hockey League and be a part of that team as they go through their playoff run. The likelihood of him playing games in the NHL was quite small. I don't think there was much of a chance of him playing, especially, as long as the Canadiens continue to be fighting for a playoff spot. I don't think it makes any sense to be bringing in a goalie like that to play any games in Montreal, whereas, going to Laval provides him with an opportunity to get some games. Again, I don't know how many games he'll play. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. But I think as far as his development goes, it's certainly makes more sense for him to be in the American Hockey League. So that's why they didn't sign. Well, they have signed him to an NHL contract. However, the NHL contract won't begin until next year. So they've signed him to an American League contract for the rest of this year and to an NHL contract beginning next year. a two-way ELC contract, I believe. You're enjoying Gooley throwing his weight the last few weeks since he's been back. Yeah, he appears to be getting a little bit more confidence as far as that side of the game is concerned. Randy, I agree, and it's nice to see it. And I think for him to be the best version of himself, I think that needs to be a part of his game. Jack Eye brings that playoff energy, physical, and decent speed. I agree, and I think that Jack Eye again. I don't know exactly what the right answer is for them and what they should do with their defense. Heading into the playoffs, I do think that Jack Eye brings a certain element, but I also think that Savard brings a certain element as well. And it'll be interesting to see how they they sort that out when it comes time to pick their lineup for the playoffs. So we'll see. Alex Carrier has been quietly fitting in the D core. Yeah, I don't know how quietly it's been. I mean, it's been it was a bit of a 180 turnaround when he joined the lineup. Not only has he been a steadying force with his own game, but him as a right-hander, a right-handed defenseman, has allowed other guys to play in their appropriate chairs, to use Marty St. Louis terminology, in their proper spots, their proper role. So he's been a great addition to the team. You did hear that, Billy D. So SKA St. Petersburg, which is Ivan Demidov's team in the KHL, was eliminated from the playoffs today. They lost 5-2, I believe. He had no points today. For some reason, he had limited ice time through the first two periods. He got a little bit more ice time in the third period. However, it wasn't enough, and they did fall to Dynamo Moscow, and they are now eliminated from the playoffs. So his season, at least with the SKA St. Petersburg team, is now over. Caulfield doing what he does best. Laine performing 5-on-5, and Dobesh stepping up is exactly what this team needs. Yeah, those are probably some of the high points of tonight's game. Tristan, I don't know that tonight was the best game. I don't think they played the best that they were capable of. I don't think that there's a ton of positives to take out of the game tonight, but I think those might be a couple of them. Dobesh certainly, I think, was great. Vanya is coming. This is from TikTok. Gaindon 1026 says Vanya is coming. Well, he's not coming until at least June, so don't get too excited just yet. His contract is not expired, and just because SKA St. Petersburg was eliminated today, doesn't necessarily mean that Demidov's season is over for hockey, and it certainly doesn't mean that he is now free to travel to North America. It's certainly not free to sign a contract to play for the Canadiens or any team in their organization. So safe bet if Montreal wins Tuesday and Columbus loses, it all but eliminates Columbus. Only team realistically that can catch Montreal is the Rangers. Well, if Detroit wins on Tuesday, that keeps them in the mix, I would say. You said if Montreal wins Tuesday. Okay. Yeah. It's over for Demidov. Well, not technically. It's over for SKA St. Petersburg. Demidov is still eligible to play for the MHL team, which is their junior team, as well as the VHL team, which is the sort of the American League equivalent of the KHL. So Demidov is still able to play on either of those teams, both of which are still, I believe, in the playoffs. It doesn't make a ton of sense for them to do that, but maybe they're going to try and squeeze every last ounce of juice out of the berry that they can before they lose him and before his contract ends. So we'll see. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen. There was a quote today from Roman Rottenberg, who is the coach and manager at SKA St. Petersburg, saying that it's Demidov's best interest. He said Demidov and Nikishin, it was in their best interest to stay in Russia. I don't know exactly what that means, but it certainly is an indication that they're still trying to work a contract extension for Demidov. and I guess apparently Nikishin as well. Who it's weird because I think they've already agreed that Nikishin can head over to Carolina as soon as their season is over, which is now. So Jeff Molson, Jeff Gorton, Kent Hughes were seen boarding a private jet with Arbor and Flory heading for Ska. I think that's intended as a joke. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen, guys. As nice as it would be to have him come over and maybe play a game or two at the end of the season for, either Montreal or Laval, I don't think it's going to. Well, I know it's not going to. It's almost certainly not going to happen. And let's just wait. Let's just be patient, right? Linette, the unsung hero tonight, game breaker. Yeah, PLW. I thought he was good tonight. Again, I think he's played well since the Four Nations break. Since he came back from Team Finland at the Four Nations, I think he's played quite well, despite what a lot of the largely francophone media seem to think and like to say about him. They continue to try and drag him down. I'm not sure why they would want to do that, but I think he's played quite well. I thought that certainly under the circumstances where he's been playing with different line mates. I mean, there seems to be a different person on that line every game. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting for sure. Stand by here for a second, guys. We want to do a little. I see Sebastien wants to sing a song, so maybe we can make it happen, or maybe not. What's going on here? Start that over again. There you go, Sebastien. He's not eligible to come over, Fred B. It doesn't really matter. There's no choice there. There's no option for him to come over and burn a year of his contract. So it's not an issue anyway. So it's not one we need to worry about. Bleu, blanc, rouge, les Canadiens, oui, sont partis de nous. Is mixing around the lines so much going to hurt this team? Well, they're not mixing around the lines except by necessity, Tristan. The reason that second line is kind of all over the place is because they've had no choice, right? They've had injuries, Kirby Doc going out, and they've tried to plug Heineman in there. Now he's injured, so they've had to go. They've had to move Kapanen up there, and so it's not a matter of them mixing around their lines. I mean, they've had no choice. Well, again, they want him to come, but it doesn't, it's just not going to happen, Fred B, right? People do want Demidov to come, but again, his contract doesn't expire until the end of May. So, it's not going to happen. So I guess, Matheson with 31, almost 32 minutes tonight. I didn't see that, but I'll take your word for it. He was on the ice an awful lot. Didn't look great on the Nashville goal, but otherwise I thought he played a pretty solid game, as he typically does. He's a bit of a risk-reward kind of guy. Unfortunately, a lot of Canadiens fans tend to focus on his negatives and forget about his positives, but I don't know. Cheese Wizard, who is winning the Calder? I can tell you that Lane Hudson deserves to win it. He's been the best rookie in the NHL this year. I don't think there's much, legitimate or reasonable or rational debate about that. Whether he actually does win it or not, we shall see. Obviously, when the vote goes out to people who don't necessarily, um, aren't really that interested in giving it to the, sometimes there's biases and there's issues going on there as far as, who they support. But again, it's pretty hard for anybody to legitimately argue that Lane Hutson hasn't been the best rookie in the NHL this year. I don't see anybody who could make a rational argument about that. Wolf is the Dawson says, Wolf is the only other option I'd accept. I don't even know that would be a rational argument. I get that Dustin Wolf is doing great things in Calgary. The whole idea of him being Rookie of the Year was kind of predicated on the idea of him dragging them into the playoffs. Well, that didn't happen. It doesn't look like they're going to make the playoffs. He's fallen off the last few weeks. So when the playoff pressure really came on, he kind of fell off. And at the end of the day, even if he did drag them into the playoffs, there's a difference between doing something, spectacular, like, leading a team to the playoffs. And then there's another guy who's actually, doing historical things. Like tonight, he tied Chris Chelios in points as a rookie defenseman. And if he gets 2 more points between now and the end of the year, he'll tie Raymond Bourque. Right? Like, we're talking about some of the best defensemen in the history of the game. And these are guys who, he's now being, again, I'm not going to compare him to those guys, but he's in their conversation. He's in that world now. And, it's one thing, again, to do great things and have a great year. It's another thing to do historical things and do things that haven't been done. Like, he's got more points than any rookie defenseman in the NHL in like the last 40 years. So I think it's kind of, it's kind of silly to consider anybody else realistically. Pacetta played well tonight, and I don't see him getting any credit. Yeah, he played an okay game tonight. I mean, he did his job. I think he's always going to struggle. I don't think he's got the trust completely of Marty St. Louis, so he's not going to get a ton of ice time. But we'll see. I agree. I mean, he had a decent game tonight. I don't think he played a ton, but, when he was on the ice, yeah, he was good. Aaron says, easy Calder for Hutson. Well, it should be, Aaron. It should definitely be. Norm and Roxanne Charette, did Arbor Jacki play tonight? Yes, they did. Yes, he did. Norm, yes. Billy D says, I hope Doc turns things around this season. Will be interesting to see if management looks for a 2C in the offseason or if they want to try Doc again. Well, they're going to give him a chance, Billy D. I agree with you that it would be nice. I mean, if Doc, for me, I always hope players can play up to their ability. I always hope that guys can, be the best version of themselves. And, whether they're on the Canadiens or on another team, I don't really hope for players to fail or not live up to expectations or not be good enough. Like, I mean, hockey's better when people, when the guys are playing their best hockey. So for me, if Kirby Dach can play like he's capable of playing, I think that's an awesome thing for the Canadiens. And I think if he does, then they don't have to worry about the second line center. But either way, they're going to give him a chance. I mean, if he can return to health, in time for training camp, he's going to be at training camp, and he's going to get every opportunity to be the guy. Whether they bring somebody in who's going to compete with him, I don't see them bringing in a guy who is going to be like sort of ordained the second line center or just be given the position. I think it's going to be different than that. I think they might bring a guy in or whatever who will compete for that job. I mean, Sean Farrell's making a pretty good argument for himself right now, right? Sean Farrell's making a pretty good argument, and he's going to have an opportunity at training camp next year too, and he's going to show up and he's going to want that job. And if he can do what he's capable of, then he's going to be, I think, in the conversation as well. I mean, you can make the argument that he's too small or whatever, but if he's going to put up the kind of numbers that he's proving that he's capable of, then he's going to get a chance. So I think you're just going to see a competition for that job when it comes training camp next year. Enjoy your modified pick on your streams, like the Tiger for the Preds this game. Yeah, I've been messing around with some AI stuff and found a new AI option. that is able to do some pretty neat stuff. Doc for McTavish, says Dawson Beckert. I don't really see that being a trade. I don't know that Doc has the trade value to get a Mason McTavish in return right now. I don't see that really being an option. That's not to say that I don't think they'll, if the right deal came around for Mason McTavish, but I don't see a 1-for-1 Doc for McTavish trade being one. Line A had a nice goal. Yes, he did. And won't draft a premier player this year. What was the first part of that question? Would you say this is a wasted year for the Habs? No, I don't think. In what way would it be a wasted year for the Habs? User 213. The Canadiens won, Stephen. The Canadiens won 2-1. I'm not sure I understand that comment. Why would this be a wasted year for the Montreal Canadiens? User 213. The Canadiens have developed. They've improved. I mean, that's the whole idea behind a rebuild, right? You want to get better and better year by year. They've improved this year. They're potentially in a playoff spot. The odds of them making the playoffs are pretty good right now. They've improved their point total from last year. They've improved their goal differential from last year. Individually, a number of players have gotten better. Caulfield's better than he was last year. Slavkovsky's better than he was last year. Suzuki's better than he was last year. They've added Lane Hudson to the lineup, which has improved the lineup. Caden Gooley is better than he was last year. So Jaden Struble, like all these. So again, I don't understand the idea of this being a wasted year. Sure, they took a step forward, but they're still missing the core players to keep up in the Atlantic. Their draft position won't help that issue. Well, I don't see that they're missing any core players to keep up. How are they missing core players to keep up in the Atlantic Conference? What's the rationale behind that argument, user? If the Habs make the playoffs, so again, if you're thinking that they lack the players to match up in the Atlantic, well, you have to keep in mind that they have players coming, right? They have still have players, and they have the second or third best prospect pool in the NHL. Depending on which of the experts you follow. There's also going to be internal development, right? Players will continue to improve. Caden Gooley will get better. Lane Hudson will get better. Cole Caulfield will get better. Uri Slavkovsky will get better. Like if Caulfield, Slavkovsky, and Suzuki, continue to get better, then they will be one of the better lines in the Atlantic Division, right? They'll be, right now they are one of the better lines in the Atlantic Division. But if they continue to improve, they'll be as good as anybody, right? Like who will be better than them if they play up to their ability, right? If Cole Caulfield's a 40-plus goal scorer and Uri Slavkovsky is a premier power forward who gets you 60 or 70 points, and Nick Suzuki continues to improve on, he's a point per game guy and one of the the leading defensive or two-way forwards, and if that line continues to get, to be who they're capable of, then they certainly have the players to compete in the Atlantic Conference. I don't see that they don't have the players. They have the players. It's just a matter of whether they, when they develop and how they develop. So I don't agree with your analysis of the Canadiens' future. Sorry. Hudson is a no-brainer for the Calder. If he doesn't get it, it means stupid people are voting. I agree. Again, I don't think there's any rational argument against him at this point. Let's see that rookie points record for Hudson. It's a tough one. I think it's 76 points, if I'm not mistaken, and I think he's currently at what's he at? He's at 64. I think it's a bit. It'll be tough for him to get there. Coach Pierre really racking up the cash with those super chat donations. Is he okay? I haven't been over there tonight. I haven't been over there. I'm good for him. He works hard. The record is 74. Okay, could be. Playoff wildcard is looking closer. Nick has done amazing things since forcing the Four Nations. Yeah, the Canadiens have looked great, and Nick Suzuki has been a leader, right? He's been the guy who's driving the boat or driving the bus, I guess. Hudson has great chemistry with Laine. I would like Hudson to be matched up more often 5-on-5 with Laine. I mean, Hudson has great chemistry with anybody. Hudson has amazing vision and an amazing ability to get the puck onto the stick of his of his teammates. He sees the ice really well, and he's able to to complete his passes. And for a guy like Laine, who has the shot that he has, that can be a pretty lethal combination. But it's equally lethal when he's on the ice with guys like Cole Caulfield. And so yeah, I mean, I think it's when Lane Hudson's on the ice, he makes great things happen. He makes players around him better, right? That's to me the hallmark of a superstar, right? You go from being a great player to a superstar when you make the players around you better, right? That's why that's sort of to me what you're not just great in and of yourself, but you also make the players around you, you improve them as well. Am I crazy for thinking that the Habs can upset the Capitals? I don't think you're crazy. I think that the Capitals are, again, it's we'll see, obviously, but I think now that the Ovechkin record is gone and over with, I think you're going to see a bit of a letdown for Washington. I think you're going. I mean, they've struggled a little bit of late. They're not. I mean, they lost again tonight or today, despite all of the celebrations. But they lost again. Their goaltender hasn't been great of late. Their goaltending hasn't been that great. And this might be an unpopular opinion. I mean, and you guys could jump all over me and tell me how crazy I am, but I haven't really watched a lot. I haven't really followed this chase, to any great degree. But I have watched the last 2 or 3 games, and I mean, don't get me wrong, and I'm not saying Ovechkin's not great, and he's obviously scoring goals and he's doing that, but I mean, other than scoring goals, he looks horrendous out there on the ice. Like he's like you want to talk about guys who aren't playing defense or aren't I mean, he's doing nothing but looking for open ice and looking for his shot, which is fine. He's trying to break a record. I get that, and I don't have a problem with it. But how is that going to translate to the playoffs? How are you going to have a guy who doesn't appear to have it's almost as if you put David Savard as a forward, but obviously a forward who has a lethal shot and has a high offensive talent, but he's just slow and he doesn't play any defense, and how are you going to use Alex Ovechkin? I mean, obviously on the power play he'll be awesome. I don't know. I just find watching him these last few games, he doesn't do much except for post up and wait for a shot. So I don't know. Hudson is super special. A lot of hype last year about Matheson's point totals, but Hudson is surpassing it as a rookie. Absolutely. He's surpassing everybody as a rookie. The first line plus Jake Evans are the only forwards this year without a minus. What do you mean? That have a positive plus minus? Is that what you mean? Yeah, the Canadiens' goal differential still is not ideal, especially 5-on-5. Tristan, I think that's probably an area that they'll need to work on, and that's an area of improvement as they go forward. Hudson is only -2. Yes, well, he's actually better than that when you consider that he's been on the ice for 12 empty net goals against, Ethan. Huge week for the Habs, 5 wins in 8 days. This one was a bit tougher, but getting 2 points on a back-to-back travel day is insane. Yeah, again, this was a game tonight where I don't think they played that well, but they got the job done, right? They got the job done. At this point in the season, when you're fighting for the playoffs, it doesn't really matter how you win as long as you get the 2 points. It doesn't make a huge difference. So, from what I saw tonight, from Kapanen tonight, he seems to be the potential 2C we are looking for. I don't think he would be the ideal guy in that spot. I mean, I think he could do it if you had to, but I don't think he would. I mean, and again, he could develop, right? He's, we'll see how he grows into that role. But again, he's a guy who will be in that mix. When training camp comes next year, you're going to have you're going to have him in that conversation. Devin, you got to try to do that crazy thing that Coach Pierre does with his hands when he gets a super chat. This one, yeah, I do it when I'm on his show. I can't do that, guys, until I get to 500 followers. So I can't do any of that stuff on YouTube until I get to 500 subscribers. So that's one of the reasons why I want to get there, so that I can do some of the super chat stuff and I can do some of that fun stuff. But you can't. YouTube won't allow it until I get to 500. Buy out Demidov and bring him in again. I mean, for what, Asim, at this point? What's up, Liam? I don't know. Like, I mean, would it be nice to see him play a few games in Laval? Like, I mean, he's not. I mean, again, like, he's not going to come and show up and just step into the lineup in Montreal for the playoffs. I mean, he could, but I don't know. I think you just let it rest, let him finish out his contract, and he comes over, for the probably before the rookie camp, but Liam over on TikTok asks, what do you think is Nick Suzuki's ceiling? I don't know what his ceiling is. I don't. You're maybe asking me that because you saw this, but Marty St. Louis was asked that today, and like as he said, like, I don't want to see his ceiling, or like I don't I want you want him to continue to get better and better and better, and so like. For me, right now he's probably going to, I think he's at 80, like he's just over a point per game this year. So let's say he finishes the year with 85 points. Can he do 90? Can he do 95? Like, can he ever get to 100? I think, as Marty St. Louis said in his answer, he's still young, and he also, he's playing on a line with two guys who, will probably get better. Two guys who are even younger than him. And as Slavkovsky improves and as Caulfield improves, obviously his offensive production will improve, and he's only 26, maybe 27, so he's still not at the he's not at the peak of his abilities as far as any of that stuff goes. So Luigi says the Habs will make the playoffs. We shall see. He's at 84 already with 5 games remaining. So there you go. So like it's not all about point production either, right? He's getting better on the defensive side of things. He's getting, better at the leadership side of things. I wonder, if where are all the people who wanted to fight me earlier in the season when I said that Nick Suzuki was a better player than Tim Stützle? Where are those Ottawa fans? Somebody go dig those guys up. And let's do a comparison. Of Nick Suzuki's numbers to Tim Stützle's numbers, and tell me whether you'd rather have Nick Suzuki on your team or whether you'd rather have Tim Stützle on your team, right? Where are those people that said I was a homer or whatever about Nick Suzuki? Where are those Ottawa fans? French media seem to enjoy to nudge NHL players out of Montreal. Yeah, the French media, the media overall in Montreal can be a little overwhelming, I think, for some players, Randy N. They'll be happy on the plane. Yes, the plane back to Montreal will be a far more pleasant one than if they had lost. I agree with you. on that. They have a great record versus the Atlantic. They do. They're 4-0 versus Florida. Josh is a new dad. He had the baby yesterday. I think that they probably were going to give him the night off, but then when things came up, I think with Heineman being out, I think he may have. I don't know how it went, but he did have the night off last night and returned to the lineup today. Suzuki has heart potential given how well-rounded he is as a player. Yeah, I mean he'll have to improve, Liam. I think he'll have to do things to get in that conversation. I mean, even a guy like Barkov doesn't get in that conversation because he doesn't have the gaudy offensive numbers, right? He doesn't have, he doesn't have that 130, 140 points. So it'd be a tough call for him to get in the heart. But again, you could make the argument that he is, could be even more valuable than just his offensive production would indicate. I meant breaking 60 assists. Okay, I'm not sure what you mean there, Randy. And Nick Suzuki's parents live in your neighborhood. Okay, cool. That's nice. And his brother Ryan as well, I assume. Again, tonight, the number one star should be the penalty kill crew. Yeah, the penalty killers were good tonight. Um, I think that Jakub Dobesh probably deserves to be in that conversation too, PLW. Although I guess you would probably argue that he was part of the penalty kill crew as well. I don't know if you saw, but the first line plus Jake Evans are the only forwards without a minus. You did, yeah, I saw when you said that earlier, Tristan. I'm not sure what you mean by only without a minus. I think you mean that they're the only ones who are in the positive on the plus minus rating. Ovechkin, fourth all time in hits. Okay. Yep. The Capitals going to hit a brick wall. They'll be like a train wreck getting derailed, and they'll hit the ground at full speed. An accident waiting to happen. An Ovechkin thing was overhyped. Yeah, I mean, I'm not as confident in that as you are, Sebastien, but I think it's certainly something that's possible that could happen. Ovechkin is leading his team to maybe a President's Trophy. Leading them in what way, PLW? Montreal will most likely face Washington, and I don't mind it. I don't mind it either. At 39 years old, whatever Ovechkin does over his 42 goals in 60 games is a bonus. Again, I don't disagree with any of that, PLW. What I'm saying is I just don't know how that game that he's currently playing will carry over to a playoff scenario. Like, I don't know that, other than playing on the power play, I don't know that, that game is that style that he's currently playing, that posting up looking for a one-timer, is going to work out. Newhook has the second worst plus minus other than Doc. We need a 2C. Again, plus minus is a horrible stat, Tristan. You should stop looking at it. Just ignore it. Pretend it doesn't exist. Amazing that Habs would set record as youngest team to make the playoffs if they can. Yeah, it's something. Yeah, I saw something about that. Are they the youngest or one of the youngest? Solar says, what do you think about the game tonight? Now we have an 80% chance of making the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's great. I think that as the games move on and as they stay in that wild card spot, their odds of making the playoffs are greater and greater. So I think that's awesome. What about bringing up Logan Mailloux? Why would we bring up Logan Mailloux, John? They have a surplus of defensemen as it stands in Montreal right now. They're sitting out, Arbor Jackeye, and then tonight David Savard was out of the lineup. So I'm not sure why they would do that. Coach had his record today by just showing a radio feed of. I heard about that, PLW. Yeah, I did hear that he had a number of people watching just a blank, well, not a blank screen, but basically, like you say, an audio recording or an audio play of the Caps Islanders game. The Canadiens setting a bunch of records and accomplishments. Absolutely. Currently, Suzuki is the definition of the most valuable player to his team. 100% PLW. I don't disagree with that. Yeah, I think you're right. You see, in Suzuki, you see shades of Yzerman. You see like a Joe Sakic kind of guy. A Jonathan Taves kind of guy. That's the kind of guy that I think of when I think of Nick Suzuki. Hughes will try his best to bring Demidov in. No, I mean, what does that mean? Like, I think he's already explored whatever possibility of that there is. I think Asim, and it's not going to happen. It doesn't appear that it's going to happen. And at this stage, I mean, what are you going to do to bring him in for? What's the? I don't see it. I mean, again, I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but I don't see it. Very respectfully, it's time to compare Suzuki to Patrice Bergeron. Let's look at their point progression on Wednesday. Yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah. You don't have to be. Tippy toe around that, Billy D. I'm with you, man. Like, I think it's kind of early to make that comparison, and I think, but you're right. I mean, that's certainly a target for him at this stage. But again, like I think Sakic and Yzerman are in that. I mean, I think he's in the conversation with all those guys. I think he's in the conversation to become a guy who is seen as the best all-around player in the league, the guy who combines offense and defense. I mean, again, it's a long way to go, and I'm not saying that he's there, but he's certainly, his trajectory is pointed in that direction. His brother is playing for the Chicago Wolves of the AHL, so he's living there. Yes. Yes, he's been up and down. I think he's played a couple games in the NHL, Tristan, I believe, but I think he is back in the AHL right now. Coach Pierre is trying to break records like Ovechkin. Yes, Coach Pierre is trying to get the job done down there in Thailand, and he's doing a good job. He works hard, man. Like, he's been like, people don't realize that the time is basically reversed where he's at. So when he's doing his show, when he's watching a Canadiens game, that game is starting at 7 o'clock in the morning for him, and then when he's doing Demidov stuff, those games are on in the middle of the night for him, and all that stuff. So he's putting in a lot of hours, and he does a lot. Like, he watches all kinds of different, prospects. He's watching, guys in the American League. He's watching guys in Sweden and Switzerland, and he's putting in a lot of time. No reason to bring Demidov in when the Habs are in the midst of a playoff push. Demidov will not be making that much impact for the remainder of the season. Yeah, again, it's just for what? Like, it's just, could you make the argument that it would be nice to get him some ice time and get him on the, out there for Laval? But again, Laval, they've got their team and they're doing well and they've played together all year. And, sometimes bringing a guy in is not the best thing for chemistry. And, if you were on a team that was the first place team in the NHL and you guys played together all year, and, some guy rolled in on, the fifth to last game of the year, and all of a sudden one of your buddies who you guys went to war with all year round got pulled out of the lineup, that might not make you feel so great, right? That might not be the ideal position to put your team in. Who would I think they should put in net if they make the playoffs? The Canadiens? Who do you think, John? Who do you think will play in nets for the Canadiens if they make the playoffs? That question, I have no idea. Baseball all day, every day. Who do I think the Leafs will put in nets? I have no idea. I haven't been following them very much. Why not bring in someone that can make a huge impact like Caulfield in 20? Well, again, we don't know if he can. Second, like, he's under contract. Caulfield wasn't under contract. Like, Caulfield's career in the NCAA was over. Like, it's totally different scenario. I would like to see some of the games for Fowler and Laval clinches their playoff spot in the playoffs. Again, I agree with you. I think it's great for Fowler. But again, think about it this way, right? You've just played the entire season, with your goalies, and Cam Hughes, is it Cam Hughes? Connor Hughes. Connor Hughes has been your goalie for the entire year. How would you feel if some other guy just sort of showed up and was like, "Oh, sorry, man, your buddy who's been, going to war with you all year and on the bus and, in the dressing room and at practice and whatever, well, he's got to go now." I know that's part of the business and that's part of the job, but sometimes it's not as easy as it just seems from the outside, right? Sometimes you got to realize the human aspect of it all, and what what goes on behind the scenes. Some of these questions are strange. Sometimes. Marty St. Louis did another great analogy tonight. On n'avait pas notre balle rapide ce soir. It's something he said before, PLW. We talked about it yesterday as well. Talking about how sometimes you show up and you don't have your A game, and you've got to learn how to win even when you don't have your A game. So it's comparable to the baseball pitcher who doesn't have his best fastball and he has to figure out a way to win with his other pitches. So yeah, it's a good analogy. Leafs should put the Zamboni driver in nets. Well, maybe. They've got two pretty good goalies. They're in a pretty good spot as far as picking goalies. Stolars and Woll appear to be having pretty good years, and we'll see. the Leafs don't suck, Sebastien. The Leafs are pretty good. The Leafs are leading the division. I'm not a Habs rule Leafs suck guy. The Leafs are good. The Leafs are having a good season. I think heading into the playoffs, they're in a better spot than they've been in a long time, as far as their roster construction. But, obviously they've got some demons to exercise in order to get to that next level, and we'll see if they're able to do that. But yeah, they're heading into the playoffs in pretty good shape, I would say. I feel Primo has been playing the most the past 3 months. You're right, he has. But again, Hughes has been there from day one, Randy. I mean, Hughes has been on that team since the first day of the season. So just because he's not playing in the games, he's still in the dressing room. He's still at practice. People don't realize, and we watch the games, and we think that the games are all that happen. But for every game that these guys play, they are together, 100 times more than that. They hang out. They're on the bus together, they travel together, they go to practice together. So just because a guy's the backup goalie doesn't mean he's any less a part of the team, and doesn't mean that, if you dragged him out of the lineup to replace him with a guy who comes in out of nowhere, that it wouldn't have an effect. So, just because Hughes is the backup goalie doesn't mean that, there wouldn't be an impact if you, kicked him off the team with 5 games left in the season, especially when you're, in first place in the league. Who might get some extra games next week if the Habs secure a spot? Dobesh, Arbor, Pez, anyone from Laval? I think Arbor or Jackeye probably is the main one there. I don't know about Pizzetta. I think the guys that you look at resting, if they get, probably easier to look at it from the other perspective would be who would get some rest. I think probably Montembeault would get a little bit of rest. I don't think you would, fully rest him. Savard, I think, would probably get some rest. Maybe Matheson gets a night off, something like that. On the forward side of things, Armia could probably use a day or two, a game or two off. He seems to be struggling through something. So, it's an interesting question. I don't know. I'll tell you who won't be having any days off will be Lane Hudson. He'll be at all of the optional skates. He'll be at all the practices. He'll be at everything. So he won't be getting any days off. Josh Anderson to heal up. Yeah, maybe Big Tuna. I feel like that Anderson has kind of healed up a little bit already, right? Just, through just over time. I think now he's kind of, it appears like he's not struggling as much as he was, a few weeks ago, and he seems to be doing a little bit better. So let's do a quick rip at the scoreboard, guys. Here, I'll do it quickly. I know this is not always the most exciting part for you guys. There's not a lot to talk about tonight. So we see Canadiens with a 2-1 victory over the Predators. Canadiens came out a little bit cold, despite their constant comments about, needing to have a good start. They didn't again tonight. Steven Stamkos scored early in the game. Giveaway from Mike Matheson. Not a giveaway, but kind of a steal in the defensive zone by Forsberg. Forsberg gets the puck to Stamkos. Stamkos makes no mistake. Canadiens didn't look great in the first period. Second period was better. Not great, but better. Caulfield and Laine with goals. To make it 2-1. Again, they didn't look spectacular, but they got those 2 goals to gain the lead. The third period they didn't look great either, but they did manage to hold off the Predators. They killed a bunch of penalties, and they were able to keep Nashville off the board. Certainly, Jakub Dobesh was a huge part of that, and he certainly, in the third period, did more than his fair share in keeping the Canadiens in the game. Third period, the shots were 6-4 in the first. Sorry, that's not right. 8-4 in the first period, 15-8 shots for the Predators in the second, and 14-5 in the third, which ended up as a 37-17 deficit for the Canadiens. So I think somebody the other day was asking me whether they thought the Canadiens would double up their opponent in shots on goal. Well, the Canadiens just had it done to them. The Corsi looks really, really gross, 83-36 for the Predators. The Fenwick looks pretty gross, 57-26. The high danger scoring chances looks extremely gross, 18-3, and the expected goals not as bad, but certainly not good either. 3.98 to 1.95. So basically 4-2. Again, an indication of how well how well Jakub Dobeš played, right? 4 expected goals, but he only allowed 1. So he's basically 3 goals above expected tonight, which is a pretty impressive number. So that's your scoreboard for tonight, guys. I won't spend a lot of time on it. I know there's lots of questions, so let's get back to your questions. Unless you have any questions specifically about the scoreboard, let me know. A team: Dobeš, Matheson, Suzuki, and Carrier. You're 1 for 4, PLW. So do I think Florida is just struggling, or they're avoiding Tampa? They're not losing on purpose. I don't think teams in the NHL don't lose on purpose, Asim. Just it doesn't. It's a myth. It doesn't happen. Randy agreed about Hughes, but Primo is most probably to start the playoffs in Laval. You think Hughes? No, I think Primo is almost definitely going to start in Laval. What I'm saying is that for them to bring in Jacob Fowler and for Jacob Fowler to play any significant numbers of games, you're basically eliminating Hughes from the equation, right? You're basically, you're putting him ahead of Hughes. I don't think that Laval has. I mean, Primo will be their number 1 goalie in the playoffs. Sends his 2 points from Florida. Yep. Yeah, Florida's been struggling a little bit. Billy D, off topic, but I'm frustrated that I took French in school from my grade 4 to 12, and my French is still terrible. I do try, though. Well, si tu veux parler en français, Billy D, on peut parler en français. On peut pratiquer votre français. What contract am I expecting for Lane Hudson? It's a good question, eh? So there's a question from TikTok, guys. What kind of contract do we expect for Lane Hudson? I don't know. I get a feeling from Lane Hudson that he does understand the rebuild and what's happening in Montreal, and that he does want to be a part of it, and he does feel a part of it, and he certainly enjoys where he's at and all of that. Whether he's willing to, give a hometown discount of some kind for that, or whether he's willing to sign a longer term because of that, I don't know. I know that the Canadiens are trying to create a bit of an internal cap around Nick Suzuki's contract, which is, I believe, $8 million a year. I don't know. Like, I think part of my brain says that Lane Hudson is probably going to get more than $8 million a year. But I don't know. We've seen Kent Hughes do some pretty crazy things as far as contracts go. So I don't know. I the answer to your question, I guess, is that I really couldn't tell you. I think that I don't know. And obviously the salary cap going up is throws everything into a bit of disarray. So I don't know. We'll see. Thanks, RDP. I assume it has to be more than Faber, maybe 8x9 if you're going long term. Yeah, 8x9. I mean, it could be higher. I mean, it depends on how well the Canadiens can sell the idea of the rebuild to him and his role on it, right? And it's maybe not even how well they can sell it, how well he believes in it, right? Like, how well does he believe in what's going on in Montreal and what his role in that could be? Is he out there just to make as much money as possible? Again, I'm not, there's nothing wrong with that. Or does he see, the bigger picture a little bit that, as a player in Montreal, if he can be part of the team that brings the Stanley Cup back to Montreal and can be the kind of player that he looks like he's capable of being in Montreal, and at the end of your career you've got your number hanging in the rafters, and all that stuff, then, you know, there's a value in that too, you know, versus, you know, going and playing for the Minnesota Wild, going, signing a bridge contract for 4 years and then, you know, going to, you know, Minnesota as a free agent and playing in, you know, anonymity. So I don't know. I don't know. I think that the Canadiens are trying to do something as far as, you know, building that identity, that culture, that environment, that family feeling, and we'll see if they're able to keep that going, and if Lane Hutson, I mean, he appears to be all in on that, right? And I think also, you know, the relationship between him and Marty St. Louis, you know, big brains, smaller guys, making it in the NHL. I think that's a big part of it. Team bonding is important and probably the reason why Pizzetta's still there at this point. I think there's a lot of decisions that are made by this team that relate to the chemistry and the team bonding and, you know, the whole idea of not making any moves at the trade deadline, right? That was a huge, you know, that decision was governed by the, you know, the whole, you know, we're building a family here, right? We're going to let you guys stay together. You guys are bonding. You guys are growing. There's chemistry there. You guys are showing some promise. So we're going to allow you guys the opportunity to stay together for the rest of the year. And you guys can see, you know, we can all see what you can do, right? And that's going to, you know, you can only imagine the bonding and the chemistry that's being built in that dressing room right now over the last few weeks. And especially if they make the playoffs, right? I mean, I think at the end of the day, there's going to be guys from this current group that aren't around even next year. But management has given them, you know, at their request, the opportunity to ride it out with this group. There's a good energy on the Canadiens team right now. 100%, Sebastian, I agree with you. Columbus being shut out in back-to-back games must really wear them down. Yeah, I mean, I think Columbus has done a lot of great things this year. They've been a bit of a team of destiny, and but, you know, eventually that catches up to you, right? Eventually that catches up to you. That's hard to carry on for the entire season. Do I think that Fowler will take that backup start from Dobesh next season? No, I don't. Baseball all day. I think he's going to need at least the better part of a season in the American Hockey League, and I don't think they're going to try and rush him. I don't think the Canadiens have any interest in rushing him to the NHL. They don't have any need to rush him. So I don't see Jacob Fowler wearing the Canadiens jersey too many. You know, does he get called up for, you know, a start if somebody gets injured or whatever? Maybe, but I don't see him being, again, anything's possible. You know, I didn't see Lane Hutson, you know, putting up 60 points as a rookie this year either. So as a 20-year-old, so, you know, anything's possible. But, you know, I don't think, at least in the short term, you know, he's not going to go to. I don't see him going to training camp and you know, leaving training camp as the Canadiens' backup goalie. Will the Habs pay this guy when he becomes an RFA? Who are we talking about, RBK? You're talking about Lane Hutson? I think they'll pay him this summer before he becomes an RFA. Agree about Laine's lackluster overall game, but some wins would not be won without Laine. Laine has 20 goals and 46. I've never, ever described Laine's game as lackluster, Randy N. I don't think he has a lackluster game. I think he's a really good hockey player. I think he's improving. I think he's getting better physically. I think he's getting better mentally. And I would never, ever describe Laine's game as lackluster. The Canadiens are much better with him in the lineup. I don't think there's any dispute about that. And I don't think that there's a whole lot negative that you can legitimately say about Laine's game. And I think that those who are saying it have ulterior motives. A-team, Dobesh, Lane, Laine, and Caulfield. You have 3 out of 4, Tristan. 8.5 times 8. If they can get him for 8.5 times 8 a seam, I think they're laughing. I think that would be a fantastic deal. I think if they do get him at $8.5 million times 8 years, I think that means that they've gotten a discount for him, and I think they've done really, really well. If they get that, it means that, I think it means not only that they've got him at a deal, but I think it also means that Lane Hutson is on board with the entire plan. Habs make playoffs. Carey Price returns. Now there could be a story. Yeah, again, it could be a story, but only if you live in a fantasy world, I guess. Haven't been around for a while. What was your thoughts on Montreal not adding at the deadline? I had no problem with Montreal not adding at the deadline. Like I just said, the decision was made in large part, because the leadership group of the team went to management and said they wanted an opportunity to keep the group together. And, management said, okay, well, prove to us that you deserve it. And they went out and won 6 games in a row. And the captain who led that group had like 14 points in 6 games or something. So I think that it was a show of faith from the management team. I think it was a reward for, proving that they deserved it. And I got no problem with it. I think it's done huge things for the team in the long run, as far as, developing a certain relationship between management and the players, as far as, building the unity and the chemistry amongst the players. I think that it's, again, the Canadiens are taking a very comprehensive and a very, sort of wide angle, approach to this rebuild. It's not just about roster building. It's about, chemistry. It's about, identity. It's about culture. It's about all of these different things. And, that might sound a little wishy-washy to some people, but I think it's the main reason why this rebuild is going to succeed, is because they're not just sort of treating the rebuild as a roster construction exercise. And that's where I think a lot of the other teams that are or should be rebuilding are not succeeding. I think that's why they're failing, is because they're not looking at it as a, they're not looking at the bigger picture. They're not looking at, they're not being visionary about it. And again, maybe that's another wishy-washy word, but again, the Canadiens have really taken a wide-angle approach to their rebuild, and I think it's a real recipe for success. PLW, I expect at least the bottom part of an offer sheet at $9.1 million per year, which compensation is first, second, and third rounder. You're talking about for Lane Hutson. Yeah. Again, and I don't. Those numbers may change. Those are last year's numbers, I believe. PLW. I think new numbers come out in June. We'll see. We'll see what Lane Hutson wants to do. Again, like I said, it's very similar to the conversation we had when it was about Jake Evans, right? To what degree is he committed to Montreal and what's happening with the rebuild, right? Does he want to be a part of it? Does he feel a part of it? Is he on board with the culture and the identity and everything that's happening here? Does he feel comfortable with the team? Does he feel comfortable in his situation that this is the best place for him to develop into the best version of what he's capable of becoming? Like what does all that feel like to him? And is is he going to fight for every last penny, or is he willing to say, what, I can live on $9 million or $8.5 million a year, and if I can be in a place that I love, in a place I love playing, with the coaches I like and teammates that I like, and in a situation that I feel like is going to, to bear some fruit as far as, me becoming a guy who's going to get a chance to compete at the, the highest levels. Like, all of these things are, I think, going to be considered when he makes his decision. Billy, forget the schools. They suck. Okay. A team willing to offer sheet Hutson $9.1 million would only pay a first, a second. Yes, I get that, PLW. But if they sign him this summer, then the teams won't have the opportunity to offer sheet him, right? So if Hutson signs a contract this summer before he becomes an RFA, then the other teams won't have the opportunity to make an offer, make an offer sheet to him, right? Sounds good, RDP. Beer in the gym. You can't beat it. I did a crazy workout today. I almost killed myself. I was going to take it easy, and then I went wild out. All right, A. Thanks for coming by, man. I appreciate it. If you ever want to check us out on YT, come on over and subscribe over here. We're trying to grow the group over here, and we certainly you're more than welcome to join us. And it would be awesome if you would come over and be a subscriber over here on YT. But thanks for the chat. I do good questions, and I do appreciate it. Finally, that Ovechkin crap's done. Now the business of hockey can resume. Monty and Dobesh are showing to be a great duo right now. 100%. I got no problem with that duo heading into the playoffs if they make it. If we let him become an RFA, I will leave the fan base. Yeah. It wouldn't be. I don't see that happening. I happened to learn my English on the streets and to be School of Life. Devin, I thought you were talking about Line A earlier. Guess I am wrong. No, I'm a big supporter of Line A, Randy. I know there's a lot of people out there that are trying to bring him down, but I've been very positive about Patrick Line A. I don't, Sebastian, and I need one. I've got this creaky chair that I'm sitting on, and it's super uncomfortable, and I don't love it, but I need to get something more comfortable for back here, for the brand and for the health of my bony ass. Give Lane free poutine for life. I think most of the Canadians have free poutine for life if they want it. Hudson, 12 million. Yeah, it's probably not going to be 12 million LB, but I don't think that again. I don't think that would be an overpay for him. I think he'd probably be worth it, but he's not getting 12 million on this contract. So, do the A team now. Yeah, I think you're probably right. Let's get to the A team. There it is, guys. So there we have it, guys. There is your A team for tonight. We have Lane Hudson, Jaden Struble, Patrick Laine, and Jakub Dobesh. I don't know if you agree with me. You don't have to agree with me, but if you have anyone that you think should be on the list that I don't have, or anyone that you don't think should be on the list, for me, Lane Hudson, again, just, the best defenseman on the ice for either team, arguably the best player on the ice. That's just becoming the norm for him now, right? He's the best player out there on most days. It's typically, between him and Nick Suzuki on most nights. Tonight, I think it was him. Jaden Struble, I think, got carried along in his wake a little bit, and also had a really, really good night because of his, opportunity to pair up with Lane Hudson. Patrick Laine, again, we talked about it earlier. Again, a solid game on the power play and on 5-on-5. One thing I've noticed is when the Canadiens play the weaker teams and they defend on the penalty kill, they basically sit a man right on top of Patrick Laine. When they play the better teams who have better penalty kills, those teams don't necessarily commit as strongly to Patrick Laine, which is interesting because you would think that he would get more opportunities to score against the weaker teams, but it's usually the better teams that he gets his goals against, because they don't feel the need to commit so heavily to one guy, and they try and use their entire penalty kill. But tonight, there was going to be very little chance for Patrick Laine to get any shots on goal on the power play, because they literally had a player sat 2 feet away from him the entire time. What's up, Persinger? Jakub Dobesh, I think that goes without saying. He was spectacular, especially in the third period. He certainly kept the team in the game. They were outshot 37-17, so I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Laine and Carrier acquisition was difference maker for the Habs season. Yeah, I think the Carrier trade certainly was a huge part. Not only, like I said a million times, it's not just his own contributions to the team. It's what he allowed everybody else to do and to be in the right positions and the right roles. Don't want to go too close to personal, but did you do schooling in French in Montreal? Just curious. Your French is very good. I did, Billy D. I grew up in the West Island of Montreal. I went to elementary school in French. I originally, so I started in Ottawa. We were in Ottawa originally, so I went to school in French in Ottawa, French immersion. Then we moved to Montreal, and I went to elementary school, École Primaire Beaconsfield, and I was in French school there. Then I moved to Beaconsfield High School. I was in French school there. They tried to move us to Dorval, to go to Dorval High School. I was not going to go to Dorval. So I basically ended up staying at Beaconsfield, where they didn't have a French program, but I just took advanced French courses all the way through my high school. So yeah, so my French is decent, but it was getting a little bit rusty. So I'm happy for the opportunity to be able to use it here with you guys. So that's why I always kind of push for people to ask me questions in French. I agree for everybody other than Struble. Can't put a player playing 11 minutes versus one playing 31. Yeah, I suppose. Again, Struble's numbers were pretty good tonight. I know you're not a lover of the advanced stats necessarily, PLW, but he was one of the better players as far as how things went when he was on the ice versus when he wasn't on the ice. Again, the numbers weren't great for anybody tonight, but he was one of the better guys for on the ice for high danger chances, all that kind of stuff. Again, I think it had a lot to do with the fact that he played with Hudson. But you're right, he only played 11-13, whereas Mike Matheson played 29-06. But Mike Matheson's number, like Mike Matheson was on the ice for 12 Corsi for and 53 Corsi against. He was on the ice when they had 8 shots on goal, and he was on the ice for 27 shots against. So obviously he put in good time, and I'm not going to say he had a poor game, but his numbers, despite the long minutes, were not ideal. But then they weren't ideal for anybody. So Struble's playing great hockey. Yeah. I thought Armia and Evans looked good or had good games. Yeah, they played a decent. Yeah, their line was okay. I mean, Armia's clearly got something wrong with his hand or his wrist or his forearm or something. He doesn't really seem to have the ability to shoot the puck or even to make real accurate passes. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there, but there's definitely something the matter. And yeah, it's why again, if they can get a few days off or if they can get clinch a spot with a few games left, it would be nice to be able to have Armia have a few days off. So you like advanced state, but it's given to no, absolutely. It's only part of the game. I agree with you. PLW. It's only part of the game. But certainly Jaden Struble's advanced stats, even at 11 and a half minutes or 11 and a quarter minutes were pretty good. I mean, Matheson was also largely responsible for the only goal against, if you want to point to that. Again, I don't think he had a bad game, and I'm not a Matheson hater. You guys know that. I defend him quite vociferously when necessary, but I just don't know that I would have had him at the top of my list. Slavkovsky might have been even, I would have had Slavkovsky ahead of Matheson on my list tonight. So anyways, yeah. But I get it. Yeah, I mean, Matheson, again, anytime you play 31 minutes, you're obviously contributing in a significant way to your team, right? You're doing something. You're doing something because you're on the ice all the time. So all right, guys, we got 18 people watching at the moment. We've got 16 thumbs up. Keep them coming, guys. If you're enjoying the show, please give us a thumbs up. If you're watching in a replay, you can certainly hit that thumbs up button. More importantly, if you could subscribe, that would be great. We're looking for more subscribers. We're looking to get to 500. We're moving really, really slowly right now. We're at about 315, 320, I think. And we need to get to 500. Like I said, when we get to 500, we can do all that fun stuff that you guys were talking about earlier tonight, like Coach does on his channel. You just can't do that until you get to a certain number of subscribers on YT. So if you're over there on TikTok, guys, come on over and follow us and subscribe to us on YT. If you're watching on a replay, if you're watching after the fact, then certainly feel free to send us some questions. We'll respond to them in kind, either in the comments or on the next show. And yeah, that would be awesome if you would come over and help grow our community. Basically, the entire idea behind this place is to give you guys a place to talk about your favorite team. You know, I like to talk with you guys more than I like to talk at you guys. You know, I'm happy to present content to you, and I will continue to do that. But at the same time, you know, for me, it's more about having a place where we can have a good conversation and talk about the team, the game, the league, the sport, all that stuff. And that's the part I like the best. Felly over on TikTok says, slow game all around. Dobesh was unorthodox, but won us the game and played great. Yeah, I think he looked a little off early in the game, especially Felly. He doesn't look as smooth as he did when he first came up. And certainly in the first period, you know, that first goal, he was kind of flopping all over the place. But yeah, he's you know, he certainly made the saves that needed to be made at the right time, and he did really well, I thought. Yeah, again, I thought, yeah, I mean, he had a great game. It's been many games recently. Struble made the A team. It means something. Yeah, he's been a really good player. I think he's benefited significantly from being partnered with Lane Hudson over the last 3 weeks or so. You know, he certainly is you know, riding a wave of confidence, and he's playing great hockey right now. You know, he's very hard to take out of the lineup. Yeah, he'd be very hard to take out of the lineup. I mean, I think there's, you know, pros and cons to a few different guys and why they should or shouldn't be in the lineup. But at the end of the day, you know, they can only dress 6 defensemen, and that means that one of them has to come out. And right now, Jaden Struble's making it very hard for them to take him out of the lineup. He's playing that well, right? He's playing really well. Wade Wilson, welcome. What are my thoughts on Cedric Guindon? He currently has 5 goals and 8 points through 4 games in the OHL playoffs for Kingston. I haven't been following them closely, Wade. I know he struggled last year, and he hasn't been amazing so far this year. But you know, prospects don't always develop on a straight line, right? Sometimes they have ups and downs. You know, certainly we've seen that from, you know, guys like Sean Farrell. Vincenz Rohrer is another guy who struggled a little bit in his last year in the OHL, but then went off to Europe and has looked quite good of late. So if he's having a good playoffs, then that's certainly a good thing. I think is he still in the Canadiens still have him, I think, don't they? Let's just check if he's. I don't know if he's still in their system or not. I know North American prospects, OHL. Yeah, they don't even have him anymore, I don't think. I think they might have released him. They might have let him go, or they didn't sign him to a contract. So again, you know, sometimes you have to make those decisions, right? I know that he had struggled last year. And I haven't really, like I said, I hadn't really followed him that closely this year. So let's just see what he's doing. Cedric Guindon, DB. So he is with Kingston. He had 85 points in the regular season in 66 games. And yeah, he's got 8 points in 4 games. But I don't believe he's in the Canadiens organization anymore. But good for him if he's playing well. Hopefully he gets the opportunity to go somewhere as a free agent this year and go to a training camp. Like I said, he struggled a little bit last year. I think the Canadiens drafted him after his second year at Owen Sound when he was a point-per-game guy. He had 69 points in 68 games, and then he fell off last year to just 57 points in 68 games. And then, of course, this year he improved. So, yeah, he had a bad year, and you know, I guess the Canadiens decided not to sign him up. But thanks for the question, Wade. I think you're new here. I haven't seen you before. I do appreciate you coming by. But a great question. Great question for sure. Recently, it's Gooley being matched with Hudson. Last couple of games, Struble playing with Savard and H.A.D tonight. Yeah, I don't know if that's 100%. I think he. Canadiens line mates. So tonight we had Jaden Struble was on the ice with Lane Hudson for 5 minutes and 34 seconds. He was on the ice with Alexandre Carrier for 3 and 39 tonight. He was on the ice with Arbor Jackeye for 107 tonight. He was on the ice with Caden Gooley for 0.58 tonight. And he was on the ice with Mike Matheson for 0.33. So he played the majority of his minutes tonight with Lane Hudson and Alexandre Carrier. Those would be the two guys he partnered with the most tonight. As far as Hudson is concerned, he would have played mostly tonight with Caden Gooley, 11:07. And then he would have also played, so he played mostly with Caden Gooley, but he also played the next most amount of minutes with Jaden Struble. It'll be a good game on Tuesday. Hopefully the Canadiens can win it. Yeah, it's a huge game. I mean, I think it's probably, if that's the game that if they win that, then it kind of clears the track a little bit, I'd say. If they win that game, then I don't think they clinch anything, and nothing's guaranteed. But they're certainly they're well in the driver's seat. Let's have a look at the standings here, guys. So there's the standings as of right now, right? So we see the Canadiens have a 6-point lead on both New York and Detroit, but both of those teams have a game in hand. If they were to beat Detroit on Tuesday, that would mean they would have an 8-point lead. They would still have the game in hand, but the lead would be pretty significant at that point. If they lost the game, then the lead would be 4 points, and Detroit would have a game in hand. So again, I don't think it would be the end of the world, but certainly if they do win that game, then I think Detroit kind of falls out of the picture. The Rangers would probably still kind of be a little bit in the picture, but not really. And I think it would be all about the Rangers. I think at that point would be the only real challenger that they would have to worry about if they win on Tuesday. So I think it's a big game in that sense, and I mean that'll be winning or losing that game will be a big a big factor. They are currently showing Ovechkin goals from back in the day. Surely he is not shifting anybody like he used to anymore. Yeah, he's not. Again, I'm going to be very curious to see what kind of role Alex Ovechkin can play for the Washington Capitals when it comes playoff time. Because having watched the last few games, he just doesn't look like he has much to offer other than goal scoring, which again is not. Again, I'm not. It's obviously a really important thing, but I don't think you can be a guy who just posts up and waits for shooting opportunities when it comes playoff time. That's not. I don't think you can get away with that. So, yeah. All right, guys. I think it might be time to shut her down. It's almost 12:30 here in Halifax. I've been on for about an hour and a half. The questions seem to be dying off a little bit here. Billy D has had enough. Have a good one, Billy D. Good chatting with you. Nice to see you as always. Thank you for coming by, and thanks for your questions. We'll see you next time, probably Tuesday night, I think will probably be our next show. But yeah, I think that's going to be it. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. On n'a pas eu beaucoup d'opportunités ce soir de parler en français, mais on avait quelques questions. Alors c'est excellent. Comme j'ai dit, on veut avoir une place on veut vous donner une place bilingue pour parler au sujet des Canadiens et au sujet du hockey. Alors, merci beaucoup. Thank you, everybody. If you're not subscribed yet, please do so. Again, the more subscribers we get, the better. It does help the channel. It does help us move forward. And like I said, getting to 500 subscribers is a bit of a magic number when it comes to YouTube. And we're trying to get there. Alex is a blue liner. Who are we talking about, Wade? Alex who? Yeah, so if you're not subscribed, si vous n'êtes pas, vous n'avez pas une souscription à ce moment, on vous demande d'en prendre une souscription. Le bouton est en bas ici. The button is just below here, guys. It's really easy to subscribe. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. The more the merrier. I love chatting with you guys about the hockey. We're trying to build a place where people can come and talk intelligently, civilly about the Canadiens, about hockey. You know, we're not trying to do the, you know, my team's awesome, your team sucks kind of thing. We're trying to have good, smart conversation about hockey. And I can only do that if you guys want to, and if you guys join up. So I would really appreciate it. And I have fun talking to you guys, and the more people we have, the better. So Crosby, 20 consecutive point a game season are more impressive, in my opinion. They're both impressive, Wade. You know, they can both be impressive. I think that, you know, I don't think we have to pick sides. I think they've both had spectacular careers. I mean, if you're asking me who I think is the better player, I think all around Crosby's the better player. But it is what it is. So, but again, I don't, you know, just because I like Sidney Crosby doesn't mean that I don't think that Ovechkin's not impressive. I think what he's done is impressive. I also think that what Crosby's done is very impressive. And the reality is there's two guys who came into the league around the same time and have both had really impressive careers. And yeah, I don't think you have to play down one of them in order to play up the other. I think they, you know, a high tide floats all boats, right? And certainly those guys are both high tides, and certainly those guys are both boats that deserve to be floated high, to stretch the analogy, I guess. But that's it, guys, for tonight. I do appreciate you guys all for coming again. It's a 2-1 win for the Canadiens. Not the prettiest game of all time, but they do manage a win in a game where they probably didn't necessarily deserve it per se. But you know, it's playoff time, and like I said, it's not. They don't ask you how you won; they ask you how many you won. And at this point, it's just a matter of being able to put 2 more points up on the standings. And they were able to do that tonight. They were able to separate themselves a little bit from the Islanders, the Blue Jackets, and the Red Wings. And on Tuesday night, they'll look to do that again in a game against the Red Wings. And like I said, if they can win that game, then it certainly makes a big step towards clinching a playoff spot. So thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. J'ai beaucoup aimé, j'ai beaucoup apprécié la conversation, vos commentaires. On vous verra mardi soir. We will see you on Tuesday night, guys. Thanks so much. Again, hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. I see there's 11 people still watching. If you haven't hit the like button, please do so. If you're not subscribed, please do so. The more the merrier, and I hope we can get a lot of people in here. Playoff times are coming, hopefully, and you know, it'll be fun if we can get 500 people in here to talk about the playoff games. That'll certainly be a really good time. So have a great one, guys. We will see you next time, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Peace out.
Monahan parked in front. Docks to Caulfield. Fires. Scores!
You are about to enter Habs After Dark